Hello and welcome to another weekly update. So the first kind of big thing to talk about this week is a blog post I put out today, and that is the kind of news that safe links are coming to Microsoft Teams. So safe links are part of Office 365 ATP, Active Threat Protection. They've been in Outlook for a while. If you're not aware of what they are, if you've not seen them, you may actually have noticed them anyway, or they may be enabled and you just haven't seen them. It happens when links are sent in emails, and when you go to click on that link, it's actually not the link that the sender originally gave you. It's become a protection link, an ATP link. What that means is Outlook will do some checks, ATP will do some checks when you click on that link to make sure that it's the genuine thing, it's not a phishing attempt, it's not a scam, it's not somebody trying to get at your data or anything like that. And it's a good tool in the fight against criminals and against hackers, and it's very simple for users. It's no different to them. The process is exactly the same there of just clicking the link. So that's a good thing from a kind of user standpoint, that there's not additional work they have to do. So it happens automatically. So that is going to be coming to Teams. So when you then send links in chats in Teams or in channel messages in Teams, those links are also going to become ATP links. And I think that's a good thing. It's good, obviously it helps protect users, and as Teams takes on more roles and becomes more used in an organization, it is more likely that these links are going to get shared around. Teams allows talking to external users as well outside of the organization, so that increases the risk there of being able to be sent links that are malicious. So it's good to see that ATP is coming to Teams, and I think it's good for Teams as well. It rounds Teams out as a mature product. It helps the compliance story. It helps, I think, as well, for organizations trying to decide what their communication strategy is. How do we want our users to talk to each other? Having a platform that includes something like ATP, just as it is in Outlook, the same system, the same dashboard for administrators to review and keep track of what's going on. I think that's really powerful for Teams. I think it's going to be a real decider for organizations deciding which communication strategy, which platform they want to go down in the future. So that's coming soon. It's rolling out. I think it's currently in development at the moment, and the date for delivery has just been adjusted to be January this year, so January calendar year 2019. Now, as I record that's 4 days before the end of January, so kind of fingers crossed that this stuff is coming quickly. I wouldn't take these kind of dates. They're not set in stone. Like, it's an estimate. If it comes in the second week of February, does that matter? No, of course it doesn't. It's more of an indication, of when we can expect these things to show up. There's already documentation pages up as well. I've linked to those in the blog post. They're on the docs.microsoft.com site. There's some information there about Office 365 ATP. And it's worth mentioning at this point, it's not just Teams actually, it's also OneDrive and SharePoint that will get this as well. And there's also another blog post about turning ATP on for SharePoint, OneDrive and Teams. Some information about licensing. So ATP is licensed slightly separately, so it's included in Microsoft 365 Enterprise and Business, E5 and Education A5. If you don't have it, you can potentially purchase it as an add-on depending on what your SKU is. Again, there's a link in the blog post to exactly how you can get it if you don't have it. All right, so that's kind of all that stuff. Just the other things I want to talk about this week and the links that I've shared this week sort of just pertain to me, really. So last week I was at Ignite the Tour in Tel Aviv. Did a number of different sessions there, but two I wanted to provide slides for because they're brand new sessions, not done them before. So I wanted to get the slides out there and share them. I think there is a mechanism for sharing the slides within the Ignite Tour kind of framework that all goes to tech community, but I really wanted to make sure that everybody had the chance to see them if they weren't able to attend the talk. It's unfortunate because a lot of the time my slides don't make the talk, if that makes sense. You know, they're a part of the talk and they're a useful part of the talk, but you can't necessarily review the slides without the talk. But it might be, however, that the slides are still useful, or maybe you attended the talk and you want the slides to refer back to, or even if you didn't attend the talk, I think there's value in having the slides. Or it might just be that you look at the slides and then decide you want to go and see the talk at some future point, and that's okay as well, because that talk is coming up in the future. So slides are shared for 2 sessions. The first is a 60-minute deep dive of building an IVR experience in Teams using the new calls and meeting API. So something you can call up with audio from Teams, call up a bot, make an audio call to a bot, listen to it talking to you, use DTMF tones to communicate with it. And then the second session is the same thing, but a 15-minute slot. So it's a much shorter slide deck because the talk was much shorter. And there's quite a lot of overlap actually between the 2 sets of slides. But anyway, that's all out there. I've linked to that in the blog post. So if you want to get those slides, feel free. And then finally, just some news that I am going to be speaking and running a workshop at NordevCon in Norwich, which is the east of the UK. And that's happening February 21st to 23rd. As far as I know, and this is purely based on the last time I went to NordevCon, it will not be streamed, I'm afraid, just to kind of head off any questions. And I don't believe it will be recorded either. So I'm going to be looking at bot building. So using the Microsoft technology and the Microsoft platforms to build a bot, which should be interesting. I'm running that as a workshop, so that's a 90-minute workshop around building bots and all the different things you can do with them, and plugging in AI, plugging in some natural language processing, trying to make something kind of cool. And I'm also going to be talking in a session about what Microsoft is like today for developers, and what today's Microsoft can offer developers. And that's kind of aimed really at developers who walked away from Microsoft maybe in the 90s when there were other options and Microsoft was doing things that put people off working with it. And maybe those people have not looked back at Microsoft since. So my talk wants to talk to those people and just kind of overview what today's Microsoft can do for developers, the tools that are available, how they can get involved, how they can make the most of Microsoft's investment in cloud and in AI and in all these other spectrums, and just kind of not necessarily changing their mind, because it's not my job to make people run on the Microsoft platform, but I want people to have all the information in front of them so they can make the right decision at the right time, and that might be Microsoft, and that's great, and it might not be, and that's okay too. But I think this is a good time, I think, in Microsoft's history to review where it is and where it's come from. So that's what I wanted to do. That's what I'm going to be doing at NordevCon. All right, that went deep quickly. That's everything for this week. Have a great week. I've got some blog posts coming out from tomorrow. Look out for those. I'll talk about them at the end of the week. Meanwhile, have a great week, and I'll talk to you again next time.